How Norway built one of the richest countries in the world. Norway is a country of just 5.6 million people. It sits at the edge of Europe, cold, remote, and far from the traditional centers of global power. But here's the surprising part. Just 100 years ago, Norway was one of the poorest countries in Europe. Most people survived on fishing, farming, and small-scale trade. There was no massive industry, no global influence, no extreme wealth, and then everything changed. Today, Norway ranks among the richest countries on Earth, measured by income per person, quality of life, and long-term economic stability. Its citizens enjoy free university education, universal health care, and some of the strongest social protections anywhere in the world. So the big question is, how did this happen? Was it luck? Was it natural resources? Or was it something else entirely? The answer is far more strategic than most people think. Because Norway didn't just discover wealth, it built it, step by step, decision by decision. Today, we're breaking down the key sectors that transform Norway into an economic powerhouse. Let's start with the most obvious one. Sector number 1, oil and gas, the engine of everything. In 1969, Norway struck oil in the North Sea. It was a turning point that changed the country forever. But here's where Norway did something different. Instead of spending the money as fast as it came in, Norway made a deliberate choice. They would control it, they would tax it, and they would save it. Today, the oil and gas sector still plays a massive role in the economy. As of recent data, it accounts for roughly 20% of Norway's GDP, nearly half of its exports, and about 1/3 of government revenue. That's enormous. But what really stands out is how heavily it's taxed. Oil companies in Norway face a total tax rate of around 78%. That includes standard corporate tax plus a special petroleum tax. In simple terms, most of the profits go back to the public, and it doesn't stop there. The Norwegian government also owns a majority stake in its largest energy company, Equinor. So when oil is sold, the state doesn't just collect taxes, it earns dividends too. Even today, Norway remains one of the world's top exporters of natural gas, supplying a huge portion of Europe's energy. Oil didn't just make Norway rich, it gave the country control over its own financial future. Sector number 2, the services sector, the quiet backbone. While oil gets all the attention, the real day-to-day economy runs on services. This includes finance, technology, healthcare, education, and public administration. Together, these sectors make up more than half of Norway's mainland economy. That means when oil prices drop, the country doesn't collapse. It keeps moving. Norway has built a highly advanced financial system, supported by strong institutions and stable regulation. Banks like DNB play a major role, not just domestically, but across the Nordic region. But there's another advantage of people. Norway has one of the most educated populations in the world. That fuels innovation, especially in digital services and government technology. In fact, Norway consistently ranks among the top countries for digital governance and online public services. So while oil may drive headlines, services keep the country running. Sector number 3, ocean-based industries, the original wealth. Long before oil, Norway's economy was built on the sea, and that hasn't changed. The country has one of the longest coastlines in the world, over 25,000 kilometers, and it uses it extremely well. Today, Norway is the largest producer of farmed Atlantic salmon globally. Seafood exports are massive. In fact, they generate tens of billions of dollars every year. Salmon alone accounts for the majority of that value. But it's not just fishing. Norway also has a powerful maritime industry, including shipping, offshore engineering, and marine technology. These industries draw on centuries of experience, and they've evolved into modern, high-tech global businesses. The ocean isn't just part of Norway's history, it's still one of its most valuable economic assets. Sector number 4, renewable energy, the hidden advantage. Now here's where Norway gets really smart. While it exports oil and gas to the rest of the world, It powers itself almost entirely with renewable energy. Around 90% of Norway's electricity comes from hydropower, and nearly all of its electricity is renewable. That's one of the highest shares anywhere in the world. But here's the part most people don't realize, that this isn't just policy, it's geography. Norway is essentially built for hydropower. The country is covered in mountains, steep, rugged, and towering across the landscape. During the last ice age, massive glaciers carved deep valleys through these mountains, leaving behind dramatic fjords, sharp cliffs, and natural elevation drops. And that elevation is everything, because hydropower depends on one simple principle: falling water. The higher the drop, the more energy you can generate. Now combine that with Norway's climate. The country receives heavy rainfall throughout the year, and in winter, snow builds up across the mountains, storing water like a natural battery. When spring arrives, that snow melts and rushes down the mountainsides. Thousands of rivers form. Waterfalls crash down cliffs. Streams connect into powerful currents, and all of that moving water becomes energy. Norway has thousands of waterfalls, many of them among the tallest in Europe. Some drop hundreds of meters in a single fall. That's free, constant power. No fuel required, no imports needed, just gravity doing the work. And Norway didn't waste that advantage. It built nearly 2,000 hydropower plants across the country, carefully positioned to capture this natural flow. Reservoirs store water high in the mountains. Then, when electricity is needed, the water is released downward through turbines, generating power on demand. It's efficient, it's reliable, and most importantly, it's incredibly cheap once the infrastructure is in place. So why does this matter economically? Because energy is one of the biggest costs in any economy. And in Norway, it's low. That cheap electricity powers aluminium smelters, manufacturing plants, and massive data centers. Industries that would be expensive elsewhere become highly competitive in Norway. At the same time, Norway can sell oil and gas internationally at full market prices, so it earns from fossil fuels. While operating domestically on clean energy, it's a rare advantage. And it's one of the smartest economic setups in the world, because Norway isn't just using renewable energy, it's using its landscape, its rivers, its waterfalls, and its mountains as a permanent energy machine. And that sets the stage for everything that comes next. Sector number 5, manufacturing, turning resources into value. Norway's manufacturing sector isn't massive, but it's incredibly strategic. Instead of producing low-cost goods, Norway focuses on high-value specialized industries. One of the biggest examples is aluminium production. Making aluminium requires huge amounts of electricity. And because Norway has abundant, cheap hydropower, it becomes one of the most efficient producers in the world. Companies like Norsk Hydro operate globally, but benefit directly from Norway's energy advantage. Beyond aluminium, Norway manufactures chemicals, advanced machinery, and offshore drilling equipment. And this is important, because the oil industry didn't just create jobs in extraction, it created an entire ecosystem. Engineers, suppliers, technology firms, all built around solving complex offshore challenges. Over time, these companies expanded internationally. Today, Norway is known as a global leader in subsea engineering and offshore technology. So instead of exporting raw resources alone, it exports expertise. Sector number 6, forestry and minerals, the original foundation. Before oil, before hydropower, before salmon farms, there were forests and minerals. Norway's forestry industry has existed for centuries. It supplied timber for construction, paper for export, and energy for local communities. Today, it continues to play a role, especially in sustainable materials and bioenergy. Then there are minerals. Norway has reserves of iron ore, titanium, silica, and materials used in modern technologies. One of the most important is silicon. This is a key component in solar panels, and Norway is one of the world's major producers of high-quality, solar-grade silicon. So even in the transition to green energy, Norway is positioned to benefit. These industries may not dominate headlines anymore, but they still contribute to exports, jobs, and regional economies. And more importantly, They laid the foundation for everything that came later. Sector number 7, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, Norway's masterstroke. This is the moment where Norway separates itself from almost every other resource-rich country. Because finding oil is one thing, managing it is another. In 1990, Norway made a decision that would define its future. It created a sovereign wealth fund. The idea was simple. Instead of spending oil money immediately, they would invest it globally across stocks, bonds, and real estate. The goal? Protect wealth for future generations. The fund officially started receiving money in 1996. And since then, it has grown into something extraordinary. As of recent estimates, the fund is worth over $2 trillion. That makes it the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world. To put that into perspective, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars for every single citizen. And the scale is global. The fund owns shares in thousands of companies worldwide, roughly 1 to 2% of all publicly listed stocks on Earth. That means when global markets grow, Norway benefits. But here's the most important rule. Norway only allows itself to spend a small portion of the fund each year, around 3%. This prevents overspending, it protects the principal, and it ensures the wealth lasts for generations. Even in years of strong returns, the discipline remains. For example, in a recent year, the fund generated record profits, driven largely by global stock market performance. But the spending rule didn't change. That level of restraint is rare, and it's one of the biggest reasons Norway has avoided the so-called resource curse, where countries become dependent on natural resources and fail to diversify. Instead of boom and bust, Norway built stability. Conclusion. So when you look at Norway today, it's easy to assume it was just lucky. Lucky to find oil, lucky to have natural resources. But that's only part of the story, because many countries have had the same opportunities and failed to turn them into lasting prosperity. What makes Norway different is how it made decisions. It taxed aggressively, it invested carefully, it diversified its economy, it embraced clean energy, and most importantly, it thought long-term, not just about the next election, but about the next generation. Of course, the model isn't perfect. There are real debates, especially around exporting fossil fuels while promoting sustainability. But even with those contradictions, Norway has built something remarkable, a system where natural resources are transformed into financial security, where wealth is preserved, not wasted, and where the future is planned, not left to chance. In the end, Norway's success comes down to one simple idea. It's not just about how you make money, it's about how you manage it. And in that respect, Norway may be one of the smartest countries in the world.